What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Tablesetters, covering all things Major League Baseball. As always, I'm Steve. Join my tag team partner, Devin. What's going on, man?
What's up? What's up? Happy Monday night. A beautiful Monday evening here with some baseball on the television. Lucky to be alive. Happy to be watching baseball. So welcome, everybody who's listening. Happy to have you guys here.
Episode 77 on deck here. A lot to talk about. As Devin mentioned, we are knee-deep in the baseball season. A lot of things to discuss with Major League Baseball, of course, some college baseball. If you've been following us at Tablesetters Pod on the Twitter machine, there's a lot of good conversation about not only college baseball, but some experiences. Devin taking in some NCAA action this weekend. But again, if you want to support the show and follow us on those social media platforms at Tablesetters Pod on both the X Machine and Instagram, leave a 5-star review. Devin, we got another 5-star review. I want to give a shout out to someone who did it for us.
Yeah, our guy, Hucky Corp, which is he's been a longtime follower on X, has a lot of good banter with us on there as well, and reposts our stuff all the time. And we've shouted him out a few times. He knows we appreciate him and all he does for us, and the fact that he's a loyal listener. But the review he wrote, I mean, it's one of those things that really, doing this week in and week out, it kind of just validates it all when you read something like that. So we just read it before we came on. Just noticed we had another one on there, up to very close to around 45-star reviews, which is pretty cool. Only doing this for about a year. Over 2,000 followers on Twitter we just hit as well. So really nice to see that kind of stuff. So all of you guys are kind of supporting us in whatever way you are. We really appreciate it.
So, Devin, it is WrestleMania week, and I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about something with WrestleMania and wrestling and at large. So, sorry, Travis, we're going to discuss it for a little bit. I have a question for you, and we talk about baseball a lot here. And Vegas, of course, will be the host home eventually for the Athletics. So that's the loose end tie with Las Vegas that we can make with wrestling. But my question to you would be, when we think about clutch situations in baseball, in your opinion, kayfabe considered, who is the most clutch wrestler in big matches that you think of? If you had to win one match, who's the guy in WWE or anywhere that you'd want coming to the ring and winning for you?
I mean, for a long, long time, it was John Cena, Big Match John, as JBL always referred to him in his prime. It seemed to win every big match he was involved in. For the last couple of years, as a part-timer, he's been losing a lot, shoulders down to the mat. But I still think I'll go with Cena for sure.
Oh, yeah, Big Match John. He did nothing but win all throughout. And, of course, we'll see what happens in Vegas, man. He's getting the shot at Cody Rhodes. Will he get number 17? We will see. You guys can get all the wrestling content at Ace Field Retro for my other stuff. Wrestling Tonight, dropping all the wrestling content you want. But we're here talking baseball. So, Devin, as we mentioned before, I don't have our usual bumpers here. I don't have the organs. We're going to go right into our opening say and discuss Campbell versus Stony Brook. You saw Campbell and my Fighting Camels out there in action at Stony Brook at that beautiful campus, Joe Nathan Field, taking all the action. I was there earlier this year. The weather has not gotten better. It's still a month later, and it's still freezing and gloomy and really disappointing weather-wise, but the action was hot as hell over there in Stony Brook.
Yeah, really fun to see. It's funny. You head down to North Carolina where Campbell actually is you're down there for the week. And I'm up here watching Campbell up in New York in what I'm sure was very uncomfortable weather for them this past weekend. They lost the first two to Stony Brook, who had been a very hot team in the CAA, and their offense had just gone cold. And luckily, my dad and I went to take this game in, got there right as the national anthem was being put on with the organs. And so we watched the entire thing, ended up going 7 innings because Campbell was able to run rule Stony Brook and salvage that last game of the series, which was big for them because if you look at those CAA standings, you want to get in that top 4 to kind of qualify. Campbell's hanging around there. They're just outside of that top 4, about 1 game back. And if they had gotten swept by Stony Brook, it would have been, a little tough go from here. But they had a big day, man. We picked the right game to go to. Weather wasn't great, but a little better than it had been. Tons of home runs. They were just leaving the field left and right. And Stony Brook is such an intimate setting. Just almost more of like a nice high school vibe. And that I don't mean that as a, putting them down at all, but just being right near the players. My dad and I hung out the third baseline and the dugout for Campbell's right there. Like they're walking in and out over to the bullpen, passing us. So it was pretty cool to be right there. Got some good videos, some decent pictures. But again, the offensive explosion, and honestly, Stony Brook was hitting the ball pretty damn well too. But the explosion for Campbell was cool to see. Jet Music, who I just learned, I don't know how I didn't realize this is a freshman. I think I just made an assumption because he's a big part of that team. Hit 2 home runs, so it was cool to see that. Dalen Thompson wasn't a triple, double, 2 runs came in and then slid into third. I had a video of that, which is pretty cool. It's just speed, man. Seeing these guys up close, it's impressive. Some of these guys are just huge, and others are just incredibly fast, throwing super hard and some great breaking stuff. Division I college ball, I said, my dad and I both said, like, we have to take advantage of this more often and come to more of these games when we get a chance. But the highlight for me was once the game was done, and Campbell kind of got their stuff, getting ready to go to the bus, and I was able to grab a hold of Coach Chris Marks, who we had on here for an interview just a couple months ago. And he was super nice during the interview, but he was also the same exact guy in person. He gave us a few minutes of his time, was complimenting my dad's Campbell sweatshirt. If you didn't hear that episode, my dad a few years ago discovered Campbell. His middle name is Campbell, so he just happens to be a fan based on that because it's pretty unique middle name. And then you kind of chose them once we made the conscious decision to get into college baseball, not knowing anything about my dad rooting for them. So it was all kind of random. Universe came together. Now I'm watching them talking to their coach in person. And he was great. My dad and I had noticed in the beginning of the game, Stony Brook was chirping a lot. I don't know about when you went, but these guys are loud in the dugout, a little bit obnoxious if you're the opponent or an opposing fan. Reminded me of like when I was playing like Stan Musial ball, like, washed up ball players being a little mouthy. And I remember talking to Coach Mams from Delaware saying he's okay if you're being vocal towards your own teammates, but not necessarily chirping the other team. They were chirping Campbell a lot. Stony Brook got off to an early 2-0 lead, and then Campbell kind of came storming out, put up 4, and they got a little quieter as the game went on. But I asked Coach Marks about that, and he's like, "Yeah, the bats just weren't going for us, so they got a little louder and louder and louder. But when bats finally got going, they quieted down. So he took it all in stride, which was good to see." Also told us that apparently, I think he said his younger son listens to us sometimes as he's falling asleep. So that's cool to have someone that's kind of hung on after his dad was on here for an interview. But all good things. I know it's a little long-winded, but it was a really fun experience there, and getting to talk to Coach afterwards was great. And hopefully we can continue our relationship we have with the Campbell Fighting Camels.
Yeah, shout out to Coach Marks again. Great guy. Go back in the archives and check that interview out. Deserves all the praise for what he's doing over there at Campbell University and bringing a lot of prestige over to that program that already has a long legacy. So he's continued in a great way. The one thing I will say about the standing on the top step and the chirping, I did notice that at Stony Brook, but it was happening on the other side of the dugout as well. That was kind of a topic of conversation. Tie this fully with Major League Baseball. I saw a reel, not from Divine Sports, but from another Padres content creator that was shared elsewhere. It came across my algorithm because baseball is all I talk about and really look at on Instagram most of the time. And they were talking about how the Padres have more of an NCAA feel to their dugout where everyone's engaged in the game in the same way.
Yeah.
And I wonder how that rubs people the wrong way. Like in Major League Baseball, if you were chirping like that, the mics would pick it up. It'd certainly be a huge story. But it's not what you usually see. You see guys kind of settle in, get ready for the next at bat. But the Padres are noticeable this year, being undefeated at home. We'll talk about them during this with the success they're seeing across both sides of the field. Mm-hmm. The stuff we're seeing with college, like it's the norm over there. But like you said before, you are very up close and personal to it. And when you hear the chirping, some of these guys take it personally, and you can't blame them because again, it's on your end. You're kind of neutral to the party watching it, but to hear someone chirping at your bats, it's got to get under your skin a little bit.
I mean, yeah, we heard some of the fans that I think had been there all weekend for Campbell, probably a lot of family members, friends, because I saw them greeting some of the players afterwards, and we overheard them saying like, "Oh yeah, they're pretty quiet over there now." After Campbell started hitting a bunch of home runs, so you could tell like they had been under their skin a little bit, and I definitely overheard some of that conversation. But yeah, that's always a debate, like how much of it is okay, how much of it is like let the boys play, and how much of it is just over the top. I kind of agree with Coach Mams from Delaware, what he said with like, I'm all for pumping up your own team and being animated in that way. But when you're looking into the other dugout, or you're chirping the other dugout, or kind of being negative about something the other team's doing, I might think I'm okay with a little bit of it, but you get into a dangerous section where, you rub the wrong person the wrong way. It's going to get personal. The umpires then have to get involved, and it gets a little tricky. So, I mean, as a fan, I guess it's kind of fun being there and hearing that and seeing that, it might get a little chippy. That's good for TV, good for watching it in person. But I think there's a little bit of a line somewhere there. It's just kind of hard to see.
The pendulum swings so quickly. Baseball's so momentum based. So I'd imagine, again, like Stony Brook clearly was feeling good about that weekend going into the game to kind of close it out before Campbell got on the bus and traveled. But at the same time, like I said, the pendulum swings, and it's hard to measure that feeling when you are talking all that noise. And it's better just to cheer your guys on. That's what I would say. I mean, I'm not a baseball coach. I'm just a fan over here, but I would say to kind of keep the noise and all the energy towards the things that your team is doing well. And that's what I would always say. I mean, that's what we would say. We're both in education. That's what we tell our kids. Like, it's not about insulting people on the other end. Let's show some sportsmanship. So I feel the same way as you, but we want to keep the energy up. And again, let the boys play, let the kids play, keep the energy and fun in baseball. That brings people there. But there is a line. And again, this is a competitive sport. You don't want that to cross the line in any way.
Yeah, and I think maybe that's why I feel that way, because as a teacher at the elementary level, like, I see these kids, especially the sports fans, they literally model like everything they see on TV, the good and the bad. And when you see some of the bad, it's like, oh my, like, this is ridiculous. So, like, it has an impact, and not necessarily saying like the Campbell Stony Brook game is going to impact a ton of kids, but there are some kids in the watching the game that day for sure. And, kids watch closely. They hear everything, even if you don't feel like they're paying attention. So I think there is something to be said for that.
So moving into the meat of the order here, one of the big stories coming out of this weekend was Aaron Judge being named captain of Team USA for the 2026 WBC. And I mean, a lot of this is a role that has been bestowed on him with the Yankees organization, but this was something that became official by manager Mark DeRosa with the full blessing of former captain Mike Trout. There was a symbolic handoff, which represents a generational shift in American baseball at this point. Mike Trout, we don't want to admit it. I think, you and I might be the biggest Mike Trout fans outside of the Los Angeles Angels Anaheim fan base. We love the dude. We want him to be the face of baseball still continually. But Judge right now is taking the reins of a team expected to include a star-studded cast. We look at the potential lineup for the WBC for 2026. For Judge, man, again, this is not something that's unexpected. We want to talk about guys doing the right thing, and for kids to model themselves after. You'd pick Aaron Judge 10 times out of 10 to have your kid watch someone like Aaron Judge carry himself with such honor and respect. And it's going to be interesting. But with the WBC coming up and looking at the year 2026, each year that goes past builds a little bit more momentum with these WBCs. When it first started as this exhibition, it really didn't have that same flair, but it's starting to build upon itself where this is the equivalent of international. We don't have an Olympic sport for baseball, unfortunately. So this is a chance to represent your country. And we're scheduled for March 5th through 17th, games in Houston, Miami, Tokyo, San Juan. It's exciting, man. I'm looking forward to WBC as long as the guys stay healthy. We saw last year kind of get us up to a sour start to the 2024 campaign. But here we are. We're getting ready for 2026. Aaron Judge is our captain.
Yeah, I loved this. They made a little bit of a spectacle out of it. Like, had a little press conference with DeRosa and Judge, and like Judge putting the USA hat on, and it just made it feel really important. And I hope what it's going to do is then get a lot of the other American stars like committing, because when you think about it, like, this team could be unbelievable. And obviously it has, health is going to play into it be a factor into who says yes and things like that. But like, in a perfect world, like, I saw some posts about this today. Like, think about it. Your catcher could be maybe Adley Rutschman, maybe Will Smith, but Adley Rutschman would be cool. First base, maybe Bryce Harper there. Second base, Mookie Betts. Shortstop, Bobby Witt Jr. Third base, Gunnar Henderson slides over there. Get Mike Trout in right, maybe. Judge, obviously. I mean, he better in right, but if Trout is there playing right, maybe you put Judge in center, Tucker in left. We didn't even mention Corbin Carroll, Jackson Merrill could factor into the lineup. And what's even more interesting to me is the potential of the pitching staff, because I looked back, and the last WBC, I know we did pretty well. Japan obviously beat us in the last game in a close one with the Otani Trout matchup at the end, which was epic. But when you look at the pitching staff for the U.S. last time around, it wasn't exactly like all the studs. You got Clayton Kershaw there, Lance Lynn, Miles Mikolas. I mean, those are some of your starters there. Adam Ottavino in the bullpen, Ryan Presley, Brooks Raley, Brady Singer, Adam Wainwright, starters, Devin Williams in the bullpen, Kendall Graveman in the bullpen, Jason Adam, Daniel Bard. Again, it doesn't read like gangbusters there. And when you look at the potential of who they could have, I mean, we're talking Skubal. We're talking Paul Skeens, Zach Wheeler, Cole Raggins, Logan Gilbert, Garrett Crochet, Hunter Greene, Jacob deGrom, Spencer Strider, Blake Snell, Max Fried, McClanahan, Dylan Cease, Tyler Glasnow, Michael King. Like, I don't even know how you limit it to however many you actually need for the tournament starting wise. Like, I'm not even talking about bullpen right now. Those are just that's a list of starters, like 15 deep. It's pretty crazy and exciting. I really do hope this is one where we get like more studs than we've seen in the past.
And I think Judge's early commitment is going to be a galvanizing move for recruiting the rest of the elite U.S. talent. It has to be, because there's a line here where, like I mentioned, when this first came into play, they try to make it a big deal, and it felt like it was being forced that first year. But anything that starts takes a bit to get momentum. And I feel like we're at that pivotal year where this is starting to mean something with international players, because they're remembering the moments like the one you mentioned with Trout and Ohtani, but go back to the Adam Jones catch. There's some like really good moments during the WBC. Now it's building lineage and legacy. So I hope, like you said, we start to see a little bit more pride with the players wanting to play for their nations, not just the U.S., but across the other teams as well. It's only good for baseball. But that's what we need to understand. And what we saw the success with the NHL, you and I discussed this with the Four Nations thing in lieu of the All-Star game. There was a lot of buzz on that in such a short period of time being built. So if you get these players to feel impassioned by wanting to be representing their nation, like we said, I think keeping in mind, like maybe it's one of those things. The old school baseball fans, you hear the old school WFAN callers calling in and saying, we don't want our players getting hurt. I can hear the 45, 50-year-old fan calling into the radio stations in New York and saying, we don't want Judge getting hurt, because God forbid he does get hurt during something in WBC. We have to be okay with stuff like that, because this means something. And if we want to talk about the growth of the game, the World Baseball Classic needs to be important. And, internationally, we watch all these star players come throughout Japan, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and so on and so forth. This is important about laying the groundwork for spreading the game of baseball. People have to have the bigger picture in mind. It's not just about what's happening April in your favorite team's hometown. It's about the bigger picture, and WBC is a huge part of that.
Yeah, and there will absolutely be those phone calls and loud voices on morning sports shows and things like that, talking about the injury aspect. And I'll be completely honest, when Edwin Diaz got hurt in that celebration, which was insane, and like that was absolutely a bad omen for the entire 2023 Mets season. I feel like we never recovered from that. So I do get it to a degree. And when that happened, I was like, I don't want my guys ever playing for this again. I just don't, because it was the disappointment and the air, like just the air coming out of the balloon, like before the season even started. It was a crappy feeling. But we know these other countries, whether it's the DR or Puerto Rico or otherwise, like their guys, like they are passionate about this stuff. So I'm happy to see our guys make sure that we're going to lead the way like that as well. Because we've seen it in basketball. Like every so often it fades a little bit, but then it always comes back. And like the Kobe's and LeBrons and Durant's and Carmelo's, like they're back in the fold. And some of those guys have said like those wins are some of the biggest moments of their career, if not the biggest. So it's kind of cool to see. And if you're Aaron Judge, like you've done everything, whether it be home run records or at least playing the World Series, you haven't won it yet, or MVPs. So like you got to do this at least one time. And I think, being where he is in his career and his age, this is definitely the time to do it. And if it's a one-time thing for him, hopefully they go as far as possible. And I'm excited to see the rosters continue to come out and the commitments and those kind of things over the next, few months or almost a year, I guess, but a little less than that, and see what comes of it. But it's going to be exciting when it's on TV. That's for sure.
The last thing I'll say about the WBC is that USA logo is awesome. Like, and they've never altered it. It's been what it is. I just love US Baseball's logo. And, I'm sure if you're familiar with the site Homage, who creates, they
Yeah.
have a whole retro shirts. They came out with a retro section for the U.S. men's national team for soccer, and they were going through and they posted all the different eras. The '90s one, which I'm most nostalgic about, when they were at the World Cup here in the U.S., and just the old school U.S. logo. But they showed the different errors of the U.S. soccer logo, some better than others. It's interesting to me that hopefully this U.S. baseball logo is going to stay on for a very long time, because it's great. I mean, I think they've done a really good job with the marketing of it. It looks fantastic. Great hat. I am a proud owner of one as well. So just love it. Look really great on Judge putting it on during that press conference you mentioned.
Yeah, it kind of, even just the Instagram post of him, like the new Captain America, which I'm a little sensitive about because I know David Wright's had that moniker for a while, but it's kind of passed along with people in big moments of these different WBCs.
For
Like
sure.
Trey Turner had a huge home run the last time around, and he kind of got the Captain America moniker for a little while as well. So, it's Judge right now, but to be honest, it'll be whoever has the big moments in the WBC for the US. And you're right, the logo's great. I do not own one of those hats, so I feel like I'm going to finally have to get my hands on one of those.
Oh, it's fantastic. The other countries have good ones as well too. You sometimes see a couple of those hats floating around somewhere, and you're like, "Oh, that's awesome." WBC is kind of a deep cut for baseball fans. You know that someone's paying attention when they're rocking one of those. But let's move to some sour news here for baseball. Justin Steele of the Cubs is out for the season after elbow surgery, announcing that today. He's set to miss the remainder of the 2025 campaign. A left elbow to repair a flexor tendon. So we saw Steele emerge as Chicago's most reliable starter over the past 2 seasons. This is a guy who they were looking at, especially with the Cubs' high aspirations for October. This leaves a massive hole in the rotation. The Cubs off to a really good start here, sitting in first place in the NL Central. With Steele now unavailable, they're going to have to look internally right here. Looking guys like Jordan Wicks, Javier Assad to step up, or again, looking at this team that has World Series aspirations. Maybe got to step into the trade market and dig into the deep prospect pool and send them elsewhere to get a pitcher that can fill the void that Justin Steele leaves in his absence.
I mean, you said it. Massive hole. Massive hole. This is just huge news. When it first came out, he even said like he thought he'd be back minimum, stay on the IL. And then like all of a sudden you saw the second opinion and thing. And how many times have we said whenever you see that report about getting a second opinion, it doesn't seem to lead to anything good. And sure enough, all of a sudden he's going for the flexor tendon surgery. When you think of the Cubs, I mean, Imanaga at the front, and now, having Imanaga and Steele at the front was pretty nice. And now you just have the one guy, and then, decent starting pitching after that. The ERA for the starters, or actually, it might just be the whole team ERA. I believe it's the whole team ERA. 4.02 so far, 18th in the MLB. So, like right in the middle of the pack, and that's with Steele. So this does worry me a bit. I mean, they've gotten off to a pretty nice start, made a statement against the Dodgers. One of those wins was a 16-0 win. I think the largest shutout in Dodger Stadium ever is what I read. So many good things going on. The offense is clearly dynamic, and I think will continue to be dynamic. They steal bases. They hit home runs, extra base hits. They are a offensive force to be reckoned with. But I think the conversation takes an obvious turn to this is not going to be the rotation if they're going in the playoffs. Like, they're going to make an acquisition at some point. Now, who that may be, obviously the first name everyone thinks of is Sandy Alcantara for good reason. The rest of the trade market will take shape. And here's the thing. The Cubs, we've said this before, the Cubs have the prospects to do it. They're one of the top farm systems in the league. So if they want a guy like Alcantara or someone else who becomes available when a team fades, say a team like the Twins, who's gotten off to not a great start, and Pablo Lopez is sitting there, maybe you move that contract, even though he's got, several years left, I believe, on the contract. I don't know, but I think that is immediately where the conversation turns. Like, all right, you have these great pieces in the minors. Who can we use to go get another guy? So that's what I'll be looking for. I mean, even if the Astros, this is an interesting thought. They make that trade with the Astros for Tucker, where they give the Astros Cam Smith. So the Astros and the Cubs have to feel pretty good about that relationship between the two teams, the front offices, because neither one really, got one off on the other. Like, or they both did pretty well. So you wonder if the Astros fall back a little bit. Offensively, they haven't been great so far. Framber Valdez is in a contract year. They haven't extended him. I mean, what a great get that would be. And the Astros can say, hey, let me get another 2 of those top prospects that you have there. So it's all just a guessing game right now, but I think that's an obvious conversation to have.
Yeah, there's definitely some urgency on the Cubs end because of what, like I said before, not only the appeal for October, but you're trying to keep Kyle Tucker in the fold as well, wooing him to be here. And I think a deep October run, it didn't really work out for the Yankees with Soto, but it also feels like that's the best thing you can do, show that you're committed to a winning culture. And it's not their fault that Justin Steele got hurt, but the better thing you can do is try to maximize on it. Because on the other end of it, if you feel like Tucker may leave, you have to maximize having him for this year. Yankees made a World Series run with Soto. Maybe the Cubs can do the same with Tucker. The goal is to keep him here. But at the end of the day, if you can get a World Series and he walks the year after, I think all said and done, the trade would be worth it.
Yeah, and you and I went back and forth a little bit about Tucker last week, where there was some conversation about will the Cubs be able to re-sign him. A lot of people were saying no, and you said you had a gut feeling that the Cubs would re-up him, and I was like, I don't agree. And then honestly, just days later, the report came out that said there are some rumors that they're negotiating a little bit during the season, which previously we had been led to believe they weren't. And let's be honest, the same thing happened with Vladdy, who said hard deadline. Once the season starts, we're not talking. And then, 3 weeks into the season, he's extended for 14 years. So who knows what to believe at this point. But you're right. The more success they have, I think it's a little more encouraging to a guy like Tucker, and seeing that the front office, like you said, continues to be aggressive and doesn't just tuck their tail between their legs and say, shucks, we lost that guy. Let's just have at it and see what happens. Like, no, they're going to be aggressive and go for it. So, we'll see. We'll see what the approach is. I don't think they're going to rush to anything, but I think they're going to have their finger on the pulse of the starting pitching trade market.
So staying on the new faces and some new places, Garrett Crochet nearly no-hit his former team. So we would call this one of the more poetic performances that we'll see all year, guaranteed right now. I know we're sitting in April, but you can't get more poetic than this. The Red Sox lefty Garrett Crochet flirted with history against the team that traded him away. So, of course, facing the White Sox, he struck at 11 over 7 1/3, no-hit innings before his former club broke it up. And ironically, Devin, you texted me about this and a buzz about this. Chase Meidroth, a prospect sent to Chicago in the deal, is the one that broke it up. That's baseball, Susan. I mean, this is like, how do you even write stuff like this? That these guys were sitting in a graphic somewhere on ESPN, that they were going back and forth for each other, and they're intimately tied now with what could have been history. There's two things in this story. Of course, the poetic nature that I'm talking about this, but just how electric Garrett Crochet has been. Dominance continues a trend to see him pitch. I mean, right now his ERA sitting there. We'll talk about the sub-2 ERA. He's there, 1.38, 28 Ks over 26 innings, every bit as advertised, and took a next step that, I mean, everyone sort of saw. We knew that. The White Sox tried to move him at the end of last year, knowing he could have helped someone in the playoffs if he was willing to pitch. And here we are now. I mean, it seems like the Red Sox have unlocked a frontline starter, and the sky seems to be the limit. This is a true ace in that rotation.
Yeah, and he's pitching deeper into games than we've ever really seen him. And that was the one question mark left for him to answer, of like, all right, former reliever, like, can he pitch deep into games consistently, and can he do a full season of it? That we will still wait to see. Like, all right, August, September, what is Garrett Crochet doing? Listen, he was my Cy Young pick before the year started. So this is a good start for me as far as predictions go. But the Red Sox need it. They need this guy to be a stopper, because right now the Red Sox are weird. They're a weird team. They're back and forth. There are some parts about the Red Sox that are very encouraging. The offense, I mean, name-wise and statistically for some of these guys looks great, but some nights it just doesn't click. They were getting absolutely boat raced today or tonight by the Rays, I believe. Last time I looked, I want to say it was 14 to something. I don't know. They've been very Jekyll and Hyde so far. So to have an ace, Garrett Crochet, that you've acquired to be this good is a little bit reassuring, and you hope that some of these other guys can get right and lead the team in a positive direction. The AL East as a whole right now is a little bit Jekyll and Hyde. All these teams, you can't quite figure them out. They're all hovering around 500, some just below, some just above. I can't get a read on it yet, to be completely honest, but the Red Sox were my World Series winner pick, so I still believe in that roster. And obviously they still have other guys that may become big parts of this team, whether it be a Roman Anthony or a Marcelo Mayer or somebody else. And who knows if they're in the trade market as well later in the season. But Garrett Crochet being their big acquisition, him being a steady presence in that rotation is absolutely huge.
So you mentioned the Red Sox and their results tonight. They wound up losing 16-1 against the Rays over there. So they dropped to 8-10. The Rays moved to 8-8. Very consistent what you're saying with the AL East trying to get their bearings of who's going to be sitting atop. It's going to be one of those ups and downs all year from what we saw from the Yankees in the beginning of the year with all the things they did in Milwaukee. They've cooled off for sure. And we recently this weekend got off to a start with a rain shortened game where they wound up losing to the Giants. And very rarely do you see a manager on the losing side of things sort of pleading with the umpire staff just to be like, call this game. And if you were living in the New York area, the rain was unrelenting on Friday night. And at some point, it was ridiculous they even started the game, but it's one of those situations. I was texting our good friend Matt, who's in our fantasy league, and I was like, this is insane that they're still playing this. And this is a case of you have them in New York one time a year. You don't want to let it go. So Yanks wound up losing in a shortened series, shortened game, I should say. Then they come back and win the second game. And the rubber game, Jung-Hoo Lee lifted the Giants. Career performance, launching 2 home runs, his first multi-home run game in Major League Baseball. It marks San Francisco's first series win at Yankee Stadium since interleague play began. A lot of huge history. Great to watch on Yes Network, by the way. Did a great job tying the two teams together. You forget sometimes. Everyone wants to talk about how the Dodgers left Brooklyn and moved to LA, but with the Giants, too, I know they're so entrenched in San Francisco history. Like a lot of fans don't even realize that they were literally a stone's throw from Yankee Stadium. And they were talking about stories where they just the intercity rivalry between both teams, not just on the field, but off the field with the Polo Grounds. And when they built Yankee Stadium, and a lot of what Yankee Stadium was built like was because they were trying to compete with the Giants, who once dominated New York. So did a really good job covering that. I'm just fascinated by New York having 3 teams at one point, but I digress. Right now, Jung-Hoo Lee is starting to become a little bit of a star here with the Giants. 352, 8 doubles right now, most in Major League Baseball, 3 home runs, 11 RBIs, 3 steals. He ranks 3rd in OPS, only behind Aaron Judge and Pete Alonso. Elite contact skills, if you look at all the spray charts, adaptability. Are we seeing a star being born in San Francisco? This dude looks like he's getting it right now with the Giants for where they need star power.
I mean, it's early, but I mean, it sure looks that way. Everyone thought Willy Adames was the big acquisition for San Francisco. Listen, they signed Lee before the 2024 season, but he only played a little while before he went out with a season-ending injury. So we didn't get to see this last year, and I think people kind of forgot about him a little bit, other than the people that are rooting for the Giants out there watching them night in, night out. But I would argue that I would be surprised if many of them were sitting there expecting a superstar in Lee. I think they're excited to have him back, but he's been unbelievable. Of course, we're talking about this, and he went over 5 tonight with 3 strikeouts, but he's been great. San Francisco gets another big win tonight in Philadelphia, 10-4. The offense seems to be revving it up. They're just clicking right now, and no one really saw it coming. 12-4. The question is obviously, can they keep it going? But a lot of good vibes in San Francisco and playing some good opponents that they're impressing against, whether it be the Yankees or now the Phillies. So I was looking at one of the parts of Baseball Savant that I absolutely love is the part where you can see the differences, whether it be players or teams, in a bunch of different advanced statistics from last year to this year or prior years also. And so you can really see who's making the biggest improvements or going the other way. I did a post the other day on the Braves trying to dig through, all right, let me figure out like what exactly is happening with the Braves offense. And interestingly enough, a lot of the advanced stuff looked pretty similar to last year, but 2 things stuck out with the Braves. One was Matt Olson. His ground ball percentage is so far up. His launch angle is so far down. So it seems like he's working through some mechanical stuff. And then the other thing, which I know some people hate this advanced statistic, but I kind of love it. There's this thing called meatball swing percentage. So basically pitches right in the heart of the strike zone, mistake pitches. How often do you swing at these pitches? The Braves they're one of the furthest decreases or the biggest decreases in meatball swing percentage from 2024 to 2025. So in a way, it shows, in my opinion, that they're not being aggressive enough with the pitches in the middle of the zone, the mistake pitches. Well, A lot of the Giants' advanced statistics are very similar to last year. So nothing jumped out like, oh, this is the reason they're doing so much better. But the one thing, that meatball swing percentage again jumped out. Second biggest increase among teams in the meatball swing percentage, 75.3% swing percentage last year on those pitches, 81.3 this year, +6. Only the Tigers have had a bigger increase, and their offense has been doing pretty well as well. So there's something to be said about being aggressive and not missing those pitches, or at least taking a hack on those pitches. And I'm sure there's a lot of people who could argue with me and poke holes in that argument and go deeper with it. But when I'm looking to see what the biggest differences is from a team that was very mediocre last year to very good so far the first month of the season, that's one of the only things that jumped out. Obviously, in addition, like Jung-Hoo Lee, who's now healthy, helps. But as a team, that's the only thing that really jumped out when looking at it. So I feel like if the Braves are going one way and their meatball swing percentage has gone down, and the Giants are going the other, and they're one of the ones that have increased the most, you have to give me at least a little bit of credit saying, yeah, there might be at least something there.
Yeah, I agree. There's definitely something there. I mean, we talk about this all the time. Anthony Volpe, they use it as an example of being able to hit the expected pitch harder. And that's what we're seeing. People are giving credit to Torpedo Bat, but at some point, if you're missing the pitches that are mistakes or meatballs, as you're mentioning, you're not going to have as much success as it just seems like it's an equation that is obvious, but it's a conversation worth having. And I think, like you said before, the ground ball rate paired with the lack of launch angle, Matt Olson is probably struggling through, like you mentioned, mechanical issues. And it's one example of many right now in Atlanta. I know they've kind of righted the ship a little bit, sitting at 5-11. It's not as embarrassingly bad. It's not like they're sitting here at 0-16. But again, they have a lot of climbing out of to do. But let's stick with the NL West for a second. You mentioned the Giants having success in at 12-4. The only team better than them right now is the San Diego Padres, 13-3, 10-0 at home. Absolutely amazing stuff here. Electric. I mentioned that in the opening say about standing at the top of the dugout and having this really eclectic energy from the guys being engaged. And they seem like they're building something special. And they continued with Michael King throwing a complete game shutout for the first time in his career. 6-0 win over the Rockies, which caps a 3-game sweep in which Colorado failed to score a single run. So it marked the first time a team has been shut out for an entire series since the Royals back in 2017. So with Michael King specifically, he allowed just 2 hits, 8 strikeouts. And looking at Michael King, it's kind of a secret that maybe it's something that other people are becoming aware of. But here in New York, this was a big piece that came from the Soto deal that the Yankees had to give up something to get something. He's a linchpin in the Padres rotation. And it hurts to watch this as a New York fan and looking at what he's done here. Likeable kid going out there and grinding out. He's every bit. We talk about Garrett Crochet being an ace. Michael King is emerging to be an ace in his own way and thriving in San Diego. So right now, I mean, San Diego vibing right now. They are 13-3 overall. I mentioned a perfect 10-0 at home, but they posted 6 shutouts in their first 16 games, which
unbelievable.
That is like, I don't know. I mean, we need to have the Elias Bureau come out here and look at this, but like that has to be a record, right? Like the ratio there. I mean, outside of the dead ball era, I don't imagine this could happen. You have to dig through the history books to find what they're doing.
Yeah, man. I mean, 10-0 at home is pretty cool too, because we know that park has been an electric factory. The fans show out. And our buddies, the DSG Divine Sports Gospel, are one of the leaders of that, and we love them for it. But I mean, that goes to show you there is such a thing as home field's advantage if the fans show out and create a certain type of atmosphere. I think that exists. A lot of people argue nowadays that there's just no such thing anymore in sports. I don't think that's true. 6 shutouts in 16 games. Like, I don't know what else to say. Like they're just cruising in every direction. It's crazy to think as New Yorkers, Michael King here on the Yankees was a really good reliever for most of his years with the Yankees. And then I want to say, you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like I remember the last, 2 or 3 months of his last season with the Yankees before he was traded, they let him start and he was great, which is probably what caught San Diego's eye when they had those trade discussions of him being a piece of it. Because before that, Michael King was a reliever. So to think of what he has become in that rotation is pretty cool. And he's a guy they're going to keep around. And I agree with you as a Yankee. If you're a Yankee fan or you're on the Yankees and you're looking at that, like, man, that would have been a nice guy to keep around.
Especially now with what's going on for the Yankees and the rotation. Like when, and again, they got the win today, and Cookie Carrasco pitched not too poorly, but when you have to have someone like Carlos Carrasco out there pitching and the rotations in shambles, and watch what happened with Marcus Stroman in the first inning, which all Yankee fans are very upset with watching what Stroman did. And this is the war of attrition as the baseball season. The Yankees are going through it right now with the pitching wise. So watching other teams thrive, like you could use Michael King, but would the team have been in the World Series? The fallacy of the predetermined outcome of last year, if Michael King was there and Soto was still elsewhere.
Right.
And that's a conversation worth having in some sort of alternate universe. But I'm happy for the kid. The thing is, he was like, you watch any interview with him, he's likable, down to earth, and he deserves all the success in the world. And San Diego, again, is getting behind this kid. I'm sure you're going to see a lot of Michael King jerseys out there at Petco.
Yeah, and just a shout out to a couple more people with the Padres. I mean, Mike Schilt, I think you got to give him some credit, because I think this team and fan base was basically told during the offseason, like, don't get your hopes up. We're going to trade these people away. Like, the Dodgers are too good. You choked against them in the playoffs. They got better. You got worse. Forget about it. Like, your team's going in the wrong direction. And now Padre fans are watching their team like, wait a minute. We're still really damn good in all facets of the game. Like, the depth has stepped up because they've needed some guys to step in certain places. And then the other shout out to Fernando Tatis. And just to finish the Mike Schilt point, like, for him, clearly he's able to do something and keep these guys up and believing. And I don't know, you got to give some credit to a manager like that. Fernando Tatis has been unbelievable. I mean, we talked about if the Padres were going to sneak somehow to win this division over the Dodgers, Fernando Tatis would have to have an MVP year. And so far he's doing that. I mean, the numbers, the batting average is up significantly from last year. And obviously it's early, but it's way up. Slugging percentage as well, way up. K percentage is significantly down, which is exciting to see. Just making sure I get this one right. Down 8.1%. 21.9 K percentage last year, which is not even that bad for a guy who can hit for power. Only striking out 13.8% of the time so far. His walk percentage is up by 3.5%. It's great to see a guy like that who's kind of coming into his own. We've all known what he's capable of, but like, since his maybe rookie year, we haven't necessarily seen him put it all together. Great defender out in the outfield. Some people were skeptical. I heard some people say, Mark DeRosa even admitted when they made that move to the outfield, he was afraid that Tatis would get bored out there. And it just hasn't happened. He's become a gold glove caliber player out in right field. Great arm out there. And his offense is unbelievable. So MVP year for Tatis is completely in the conversation.
So speaking about realizing the potential, it feels like the breakout for Hunter Greene has officially arrived. A dominating Cy Young caliber start, 7 shutout innings against Pittsburgh, stretching his scoreless streak to 18 and 2/3 innings. On the season, he owns a microscopic 0.98 ERA, a 0.58 whip, 31 strikeouts in just under 28 innings. And the improvement we're seeing right now across all metrics, improved command, the velocity's up, it's high octane at this point, and there seems to be a maturity right now of Hunter Greene, feeling the confidence, watching him have a swagger on the mound. He's firmly in the early Cy Young conversation, and everyone looks at the profile of the player. We all expected this to come elsewhere, and it's funny that it finally pops this year, because this is the year almost that we weren't expecting it, because I'm not saying he was post-hype, because people were expecting, the velocity has always been there, but everything has clicked early in the season. It feels like he's fully realized of what everyone knew could happen somewhere down the line. It almost felt like people were sleeping on it a little bit this year, and he came out and was like, here I am again. He's
so young, but I feel like we've just been talking about him from such a young age, so it feels like he's been around longer and feels like he's older than he actually is, where it's not that anyone stopped believing in Hunter Greene. It's just that you start talking about other younger guys, and the guys that you've been talking about for a few years get pushed down a little bit and not completely forgotten about, but just not thought of as much. 2 of his pitches right now are at the top of the pitch run value chart among all pitchers in the league. His 4-seam fastball has an RV of 6. He throws that about 60% of the time. The slider, which is seemingly actually legitimately unhittable as of now, also has an RV of 6. Throws that almost 30% of the time. A 0 batting average against that pitch so far this year. He's unreal, and he's right in front of our eyes. I mean, obviously he was great last year, and then kind of, I think, missed the last month or so of the year. He is on another level right now. Like, you're talking maybe best pitcher in baseball. You mentioned a couple of the increases. You mentioned velocity is up. Bunch of other things as well. I look at the walk percentage, the K percentage. So the K percentage is up 3.6% from last year, 31.3% right now. The walk percentage, this is the thing. Like, he's getting strike one. He's not dancing around the strike zone. He's just saying, here it is. See if you can hit it. Which, like, it then makes sense. Like, the exit velocities are up. The hard hit percentage is up. We usually think that's not a good thing for a pitcher, but I think it's because he's just less afraid to throw in the zone now, and the results speak for themselves. The in zone percentage is up 9.8%, which proves my point. 9.8% increase. The whiff percentage is up by 3.6. The swing percentage is up by 6.2. The walk percentage is down. Like, all these things just show how successful he's been so early. But to see a guy like Hunter Greene and Nick Lodolo putting it together right now at the top of that rotation, the Reds just were able to climb back up to 500 after kind of struggling. They had those offensive struggles for like 3 or 4 games in a row that were really hard to watch. But to have a guy like that at the top of the rotation and maybe 2 of them be stoppers and Terry Francona in the dugout, that's what's going to make your fan base believe, like, even through the struggles, we'll be all right.
So we move on to the Dodgers here. We've been talking a lot about the National League West, and the Dodgers are everyone's favorite to get back to the World Series and defend their championship. Well, right now, early season slide, losing a 3rd straight series, this time against the aforementioned Cubs, despite losing Justin Steele. A really positive series for them here, and a lot to look forward to. Pete Crow Armstrong had a lot of conversation about him during spring. He was the difference maker for Chicago, hit 2 home runs, added a triple. There were rumors underneath all of this winning that they offered him a $75 million extension. No deal's been finalized. The conversation you mentioned before with Kyle Tucker conversation. So they're trying to lock up this core and bring together maybe a window of 5 to 6 years of potentially trying to win a World Series. And a guy like Pete Crow Armstrong seems like he's going to be essential to that, especially the electricity we see from not just his play on the field, but he feels like he's one of those guys potentially could pop as one of the stars in baseball. As far as the Dodgers go, looking at what they've done early season, again, no one's panicking about them. We know that they'll be fine. But looking at the runs scored and runs given up, kind of measure who they are as a team right now. 74 runs scored, 74 given up. They're sitting at right now, 11-6. It's not like it's end of the world, sky is falling. But this is more the story about the Cubs, in my opinion, where they've taken control of the Central. And they have a little bit of a balanced attack. And the only thing that you can kind of frown upon is Justin Steele being lost for the season. Otherwise, it was a great weekend for the Cubs, dismantling the Dodgers.
Yeah, like we mentioned earlier, like, there's so much to love with the Cubs offense. If their pitching staff can just stay afloat for a little while before maybe they can go get some reinforcements, I think they're going to be okay. Although the Brewers, after, looking dead in the water for the first couple series, have come back alive, as they always seem to do, and are nipping at the heels of the Cubs. But I want to talk a little bit about the Dodgers, because this is interesting to me. They started off the season 8-0, I think first ever champions to do that the next season. And now, as you said, have dropped 3 straight series. Looking into it a little bit, I was watching MLB Network earlier, and they're having a conversation of like, listen, the Dodgers are clearly looking towards the postseason already. Like, one guy was even saying, I think Jason Stark, that, like, talking to Dave Roberts, you can already hear in what he's saying. He's thinking about, like, how the roster could look and the lineups and the pitching staff for postseason series. I think that's a huge mistake. And I'm sure it's not exactly true. I'm sure they're exaggerating a little bit for TV. But, pay attention, guys. The Padres and the Giants are playing damn good baseball. And the Diamondbacks probably haven't played their best baseball yet, and have Corbin Carroll playing out of his freaking mind. We talked about Tatis being MVP candidate. Look at what Corbin Carroll's doing. He is an early MVP candidate as well. And Corbin Burns eventually is going to pitch better. So that division, man, they're not here to lay down for the Los Angeles Dodgers. So you can't look towards October already. Like, it's early. You're going to, these teams are going to sneak up on you if that's the case. But looking into it a little more, there is one clear thing that sticks out, and some very interesting statistics here. The bottom third of the Dodgers order has struggled mightily. And some people might be listening thinking like, oh, the bottom third of the order for every team is, the worst part of the order. I get it. But when you look at this, first of all, the thought about the Dodgers is like 1 through 9. They're amazing, right? Like, all-star team. They have no holes. Guys like Max Muncy towards the bottom have really, really struggled. The 3 batters who started in the 7 to 9 holes on Sunday night are all hitting below the Mendoza line. For the season, the 7 and 9 hitters have a 508 OPS on the year, and that's as opposed to an 823 OPS from the top 6 hitters in the Dodgers lineups. The bottom third has gotten on base at only a 230 clip for on base percentage. And here's why that's important. Ohtani hits 1. So the bottom of the order is very important. The criticism of hitting Ohtani 1 is, all right, well, you have this great hitter who can hit for power and drive and runs. You're hitting him 1? And the argument for the Dodgers should be, well, our whole lineup is great. So 7 through 9 will be on base for him. Not so far. Ohtani has only taken 7 plate appearances with a man in scoring position for the whole season. He has started every game. Only 7 times has he had a man in scoring position. That is the 3rd fewest among qualified hitters. That's important. And that is not a throwaway statistic.
No, I agree with you. There's definitely something to talk about here. You mentioned the 8-0 start. The fact that I think the lipstick on top of this is that the record doesn't look as bad. But when you combine the whole picture together, you start digging deeper into the stats. It's something to at least have a conversation about. And this will be a test for them because, as you mentioned before, October is a long way away. And NBA uses the term load management. And I imagine Dave Roberts has some of that in mind as well because he wants them to be healthy come October. But you got to get to October first. And it may seem like a given that they will be there, but this is a long season and things can go wrong, especially where, as well as the Padres and the Giants right now are playing. And like you mentioned before, the Diamondbacks, they're not going to be an easy lay down as well. The only team in there are the Rockies right now. That's going to be, kind of an easy team to feed up and get fat on. But these rest of these teams, you're going to play them a lot. And the Padres and the Giants, the rivalry is real with these teams and they're motivated outside of the fact that they're actually damn good right now that we're learning in the first month of the season. But we mentioned the Braves before and a lot to be unhappy about. You mentioned the Matt Olson stuff and they've kind of dug themselves out of the hole a little bit. They have 5 wins now in the season, but a big glimmer of hope has been Spencer Strider. And we have word that he'll make his long awaited return to the rotation on Wednesday against Toronto. So this guy, again, you go back to the history. He has not pitched in the big leagues in over a year after undergoing that internal brace surgery on his UCL. But we know how good Strider can be. I think people are a little bit forgetting that he was emerging as the face of that side of the ball in baseball. He struck out 27 batters in 13 2/3 innings during his AAA rehab assignment. We saw glimpses of the same velocity, the wipeout stuff that made him the more electric arms that we saw in Major League Baseball. You mentioned K rate for other pitchers with Hunter Greene. Go back and dig into Spencer Strider's back of baseball card. This dude has a K rate of 37.4%. Staggering. This is a guy who's going to come out there and hopefully he looks just as much as who he was. Hopefully that the internal brace surgery on his UCL didn't slow him down. What we saw in AAA, again, it's AAA and it's rehab. He's fired up and wants to be there. This is crucial for the Braves because, again, this was the glimmer of the end of the rainbow. We need Strider back. We need to get healthy. Well, your guy's back. Yes, you got to start winning.
Yeah, and this is why there is hope for the Braves. We saw that stat a week or so ago when they went 0-7, I believe. Like no team or whatever. It was some record that they had hit that no team had ever had that record and made the playoffs. There's hope for them. You mentioned earlier 5-11 now, got the win against Toronto. The hope for them is the guys that have been on the field are not going to play this poorly all season. Austin Riley hits 2 home runs tonight. We mentioned Matt Olson probably going through some mechanical stuff, still hitting the ball hard. Just the launch angle seems a little wonky. He's probably going to fix himself. Even last year when everyone's saying he's having such a bad season, then all of a sudden you look at the back of his baseball card in September, you're like, wow, that's really good. It just so happens it was after a 50-something home run year. I think that's what you're comparing it to. But though the guys that have been on the field are going to play better. And you got Spencer Strider coming back, who's looked electric at AAA. Ronald Acuna, it sounds like it's been a much slower go than people expected. A little concern there because the last time he had a major injury, the season he came back was very 50-50 for him, kind of on and off in a way. Like it seemed to take him another full year to get back to himself. But if you can get 80%, 85% Ronald Acuna and get Spencer Strider healthy and these other guys start to play more like the back of their baseball cards say they're capable of, I think the Braves have the capability to come right back and sneak up on people and be fine and be a playoff team again. So Spencer Strider, man, he's must-see TV. We'll see how he looks on Wednesday.
Yeah, definitely for sure. He's someone that you love to see pitch, and when you have that anchor guy, there's the streak stoppers out there. So you're not going to have these extended losses that we saw in the beginning of the season if you have a guy that's there to block it from getting somewhere and building momentum in the wrong direction. As far as pitchers go, the exclusive club is back. We're now deep enough into the season to really take a look at these sub-2 ERAs and take them seriously. And this club really decreased to a singular club of 1 by the end of the season. But right now, the gang's all back together through the first 2 weeks. We have a surprising number of starters that have grown to be a part of your sub-2 ERA club. I think it's going to be your club, Devin. So maybe we have to get a bumper for it with some music and things.
We need a bumper. This
is your sub-2 ERA, and tell us who's in it, and we'll have a conversation about who we think will stay.
All right, here we go. This sub-2 ERA crew. I'm going to go right through it. Spencer Schwellenbach, 0.45, well under 2. Chris Bubich, 0.96. There's a surprise. Nick Lodolo, 0.96. Hunter Greene, 0.98. Chris Bassett, 0.98. Kodai Senga, 1.06. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 1.23. Garrett Crochet, 1.38. Jesus Luzardo, 1.5. Max Fried, 1.56. Shane Vaz, 1.59. Nick Pavetta, Nicky P, 1.59. Martin Perez, 1.59. Jack Flaherty, 1.62. Mitchell Parker, 1.96. And that would lead me into the conversation, and this is what we're going to do each week. Let's each pick a guy that we think is going to hang around in the sub-2 ERA crew the longest. I'll let you go first.
I mean, it's tough to say looking at the list here. There's a lot of good pitchers in here and some surprising names, but we mentioned before, if I'm picking a group of 3 right now, I think that's a good number to pick out of here. Hunter Greene's at the top of the list. The stuff we're seeing has been real, and I think we're seeing him put it all together. I think Garrett Crochet is every bit as advertised. I think he'll stay there. It's tough playing his home games and pitching at Fenway, but if anyone can do it, the wipeout stuff we're seeing from him will be there as well. And looking at the other guys, there's a lot of other names in there. I'm hopeful that Max Fried could be there, but I'm going to give him a little bit of negative points for pitching his home games at Yankee Stadium. And with the Yankees, I mean, again, with the Yankees we're seeing from the rotation hasn't been awe-inspiring, but I'm going to go with Shane Baz. I like what I saw from him tonight. Went out there, of course, he got a lot of run support, but we still see a lot of good stuff out of him as well. And those are the 3 I'm looking forward that they're going to be in this by, let's just say, mid-July. They'll still be under the 2 ERA spot.
Well, yeah, and Shane Baz as well. Like, he went tonight, so this is updated. He's at 1.42 now, so he's actually down from 1.59, which is what I had here, because he went another 6 innings tonight, only allowing 1 run, 11 Ks too. You're right. He's had a hell of a beginning of the season. Filthy. After being out for a while. If I pick 3, I'm going Schwellenbach. I love this dude. I'm just so sad he's on the Braves. I said I posted today, kind of reposted someone's thing saying, I think Schwellenbach, and I've mentioned it, I think last week or the week before, I think by the end of the season, there's a very good chance we're talking about him as top 3 pitcher in baseball. Like, I just feel that strongly about this guy, watching him against the Mets a few times and other times as well. And looking into the advanced statistics, like, I love everything about his profile. So 0.45, I mean, that also gives me a little bit of a head start here. But Schwellenbach, I'll go with him. Crochet, I agree with you on. I'm tempted to only pick those 2, but if you make me pick a third, I'd probably go with Hunter Greene as well, because I mean, having a pitch that you literally have a 0 average against so far and being able to throw 99 as well, like, and he's dotting it, like, he's in the zone. There's so much to like about what Hunter Greene is doing right now. If he can just keep on doing what he's doing, like, don't change anything, just keep on doing it. So those would be my 3.
So we saw this room empty pretty quickly of the sub-2 ERA club. Hopefully they can stay and enjoy the party, enjoy the cocktail hour, get some drinks and some hors d'oeuvres or whatever. But if there's the biggest pretender of this list, I know we want to remain positive of who will stay. Is there someone that is glaringly obvious that they're going to probably be like, nah, this dude's going to be out of here sooner than later?
I mean, to me, Martin Perez, I know he had that one great start. He's playing for the White Sox, right? I'd be shocked if he's on here I could see him being on here next week still, but I'd be shocked if he's on here longer than that.
I feel the same way about Perez, but also Mitchell Parker I'm looking at as well. He's like 1.96, like he's on the cusp that he could be there. But we saw, Mitchell Parker, I'm sure Nats fans are very familiar with. his work out there. I mean, sometimes he looks great, and other times he gives up. He'll blow it up and give up 8 earned runs. So that's the thing with Mitchell Parker. So I'm assuming one of those duds are coming sooner than later. Not wishing upon the dude, but being a proud owner in fantasy, sometimes Mitchell Parker, that's on the other side of it sometimes as well. But let's talk about some prospect promotion stuff. And we put in the notes here that the prospect promotion incentive, otherwise known as the PPI deadline, has now passed, which means the teams can no longer receive that extra draft pick compensation for promoting rookies early. So in your mind, Devin, what does this mean? Are we going to see a little bit of the, I guess, clogging up the pipeline of getting these guys up like a Nick Kurtz? Are we going to not see this? Or is it just one of those things that we have to just add to the equation when guys get called up now?
Well, I think it's an interesting conversation. So the day after the deadline, I made a pretty big long post about PPI and the deadline passing and what that could mean. And the reason I think it's important is because every time Nick Kurtz hits a home run or Roman Anthony has a multi-extra base hit night, everyone's like, oh, get in the bigs. He's going to be here this weekend. I mean, the A's put Brent Rooker out in the outfield the other day, and everyone was like, all right, clearly Kurtz is coming up because that makes a spot for him at DH, and it hasn't happened yet. And I do wonder, with the PPI not being there anymore as an incentive for this season, if the teams go back to the old school conservative approach a little bit and like bide their time with these guys a little. And I don't have the answer to that, but if you're wondering what I'm talking about and you're not 100% sure the whole scope of PPI, I'm going to educate you a little bit here. We made this post so you can read it as well if you'd rather see it visually, but just take people through it a little bit without really forcing an opinion on you as far as like, I think this means this. So PPI rewards teams for promoting their top prospects toward the beginning of the season. All right, that beginning of the season has now passed according to the PPI rules. And that's because the player must spend at least 172 of the 186 days of a season on the MLB roster or injured list. If the player factors into a major award, once they're doing all that, those other things I just said, the team earns an extra draft pick. All right, so to give you an example, you might say, all right, then Paul Skeens, did that earn the Pirates an extra draft pick? No, he won Rookie of the Year, but he was not promoted last year until May 11th. So again, you see they missed the PPI window. That's a perfect example. PPI eligibility is based on preseason rankings. So if a player is on the top 100 of 2 of the 3 main top 100s, they are PPI eligible. Those 3 lists are the MLB Pipeline, Baseball America, and ESPN's list. This year, there were 87 players from the new top 100 who were eligible. Some did make the deadline. So Cam Smith obviously started with the club. Drake Baldwin as well. Matt Shaw, same thing. Roki Sasaki, Dylan Cruz, Thomas Harrington, who didn't start with the club but made it up in time, although I think he's been sent back down, so that's probably going to mess with this. Kumar Rocker, Christian Campbell, Chase Dolander, and Jackson Jobe. There may be another 1 or 2 that I missed, but those are some big names. And there's others left over from other years, and that's a little tricky part about this. So a player who satisfies their PPI eligibility as a rookie but does not factor into any awards retains their eligibility until arbitration years. So that's why there's other guys from prior years, such as Mason Wynn, Hunter Brown, and a bunch of others that are also potential PPI people here, not just rookies. And I just think with all this being said, it is an interesting discussion and debate. Like, are the Roman Anthonys, the Nick Kurtzes, and others further away than we think because the PPI incentive has now passed?
Well, this would be a real test about how far the philosophical idea has shifted the other way. Are we just getting players up when they're ready, or are we trying to control them financially? For the Red Sox, if they are able to negotiate a deal with a Roman Anthony while he's still in the minors, like we saw a similar deal with Christian Campbell in his first couple of days in a major league uniform, you could forego those control years and you just, pay him $80 million to keep him in house for the rest of the next 9 years, whatever, different story. But I think there is still the mindset of thinking of the future and not starting the clock if you don't have to, especially these teams that are not competitive. That's the reason something like PPI has been put in place to prevent what we heard the Mariners front office say, the quiet part out loud, of not wanting to get these guys out there unless they are competitive or with World Series aspirations. Because let's be honest, majority of the league, they know they're not going to be winning the World Series, and they're looking forward to being like, we want to be able to stop this clock and not have to pay them in 2026 rather than paying them in 2028. I mean, it's a big difference for these guys' pocketbooks, and it's the unfortunate reality of the business side of things. But the PPI thing has shifted things dramatically because that draft pick is essential, man. Like, this is something that can help expedite the rebuild or just sustain your minor league system. So we've seen it result in these young players getting the start, not only just because they're able to compete on a major league level, because these front offices are now incentivized. That's why we're seeing these players shorten the pipeline. And again, like we say week after week, it's good for baseball to see these young players shorten the NCAA pipeline to get into the major leagues. Things like Paul Skeens, that's, to me, that shouldn't be the outlier. That should be the expectation of these players are ready for the major league roster, in my opinion.
No doubt about it. And in a weird way, I don't know how I feel that it's only based on these top 100 dudes. Like, for example, the Angels, and I apologize, I'm forgetting the guy's name. The Angels have a relief pitcher up that they just drafted last year. Not a top 100, like, big name prospect. The fact that if he somehow factors into a award, they won't be rewarded at all, like, that seems a little bit wrong. So I'm not sure how I feel about the top 100. Maybe that expands in a way at some point, because that's almost saying like the top 100 is the only thing that matters and that it's 100% correct. Like, we see plenty of top 100 prospects completely flame out, and we see other dudes that were not really known as well become big players. But the cool thing about PPI, it's only been around for a little while. There's going to be a time that comes after this has been around for a while where we hear about, like, hey, you know that guy, that star? Yeah, he was a PPI pick. He was able to be picked by this team because they had an extra draft pick in this spot because of the PPI. And that's going to be cool to see once you start having more of those conversations. But in a way, I'd like to see it maybe pushed back another week or two, like, just so, because having the conversation of wondering if now teams are not incentivized once PPI passes. Like, I feel like if you give it another week or two, I'm sure there's a reason it's not, but I wonder how they came across when the deadline would be.
So just to clarify, the young man pitching for the Angels, Ryan Johnson, skipped
Yes.
the minor leagues to be up there playing at his college ball at Dallas Baptist University. So I, again, think that should be the norm. If these guys can go out there and contribute, why forego this antiquated system of being like, you have to play the minors a certain amount of time, pay your dues, et cetera, sleep on a cot, sleep on a floor somewhere and get paid minimal money. Like, again, if these guys can play ball and contribute to a championship season or at least make your team competitive, hell yeah, get them on the field. And that's just how I feel about it. But moving forward here, you did post some stuff on Twitter throughout this week. A couple of polls, a lot of engagement. And we mentioned before, I think we haven't been on since this was announced that we reached over 2,000 followers. And one of the followers was the aforementioned John Cena. So if you're out there, John Cena, champ, if you're listening, because you follow us now at Tablesetters Pod, we can't see you. You can see us because you follow us. You're verified. And I know you follow a million other people on Twitter, but the fact that he was the guy that put us over 2,000 or at least close to it, was something special, man. You screenshot. I was like, what the hell is going on that John Cena has been following us on Twitter?
Yeah, and again, like, when you see he follows 1 million people, and it's actually a well-known thing that he makes it a point to follow a lot of people on Twitter and 0 on Instagram. Interesting thing there. It takes the air out of the balloon a little bit, but then you're like, wait, we didn't even follow him. How did the fact that we popped up on his page without following him first is kind of cool. So thanks to the 16-time champ there, maybe 17 times very soon. But yeah, so we posted some polls on here, and it's very relevant to the PPI conversation that we just had. I posted a series of 3 polls here, so we'll walk you through them real quick, and I'll try to go through what the results are. Let me just pull it up quickly because I want the most recent update. So we're basically giving you different lists of high prospects and thinking in the fantasy baseball world who you would most want to have out of these lists that we gave you. All right, so let me pull up the first one here. All right, thinking long-term, which of these players would you most want on your fantasy baseball team? This poll still has another 10 hours, so it may change. And if you haven't voted yet and you're listening now, early on Tuesday, wait, what's today? Monday, right? Yes. So early Tuesday. Monday, yeah. All right. Go ahead and vote if there's time still. So your choices on the first poll: Nick Kurtz, Travis Bazzana, Roki Sasaki, and Roman Anthony. As of now, a pretty close poll. Mixed results on this one. But Travis Bazzana has 33%. He's in the lead. Roman Anthony, 29%. Nick Kurtz, 24%. And Roki Sasaki, 14%. Interesting results. How do you feel about those 4?
I mean, there's not a wrong choice here at all. I think all these guys are going to be contributors in a big way for fantasy and also Major League Baseball in real life. When I voted on it myself, I did vote for Travis Bazzana. I just like the expectation of what he brings to the table, the full picture as far as fantasy goes. But I think in their own way, all these guys are going to be helping baseball teams for a long time going forward, as long as injuries don't get in the way.
Yeah, and Sasaki, I know people are down on him, but his last couple starts, he's looked like he's coming out of it a little bit. Obviously, he's still not giving you a whole lot of length. Like 5 innings is great right now, but swing and miss stuff seems to be coming along a little bit. Not walking as many people and just a little more confident out there. And he's had a pretty tough matchup schedule as well. So we'll see when he faces some of those lesser opponents. Does he dominate? Who knows? Maybe, but it's interesting to watch Roki and his roller coaster so far. So part 2, same exact question. Thinking long term, which player would you most want on your fantasy baseball roster? This time, your choices are Jack Caglione, Chase Burns, JJ Weatherholt, or Connor Griffin. Jack Caglione, 48%. He leads the way pretty significantly. After that, Weatherholt gets 21%. Chase Burns, who's electric for Cincinnati, down in the minors, obviously, right now, 17%. Connor Griffin for the Pirates, 14%. I will say Griffin was my choice. I like all these guys a hell of a lot. But Griffin, I don't know. Just when you watch what he can do, he's so young still, drafted out of high school. But the fact that he still has so much growth and he already looks the way he does, he gets me excited to watch. Although we went back and forth with our friends at Baseball Unstitched, another baseball podcast, who they've interacted with us a bit, especially recently. Some reposts, we've reposted some of their stuff as well. And they said anyone who doesn't pick JJ Weatherholt needs to be taught something. And I said, I got to be honest, Griffin is my guy here. And their point was they just don't know if they trust the Pirates to develop a guy like him. And I said, that's fair. That's completely a fair point. If I'm looking just at the players, not considering the teams, Griffin may excite me the most. But if you think about the teams, I mean, they have a good point. The Pirates don't exactly have a great reputation.
Yeah, you can make the case for any of these guys. My initial vote, and I go on my gut instinct here when I was voting on the Twitter polls, is Jay Cags, dude. I love this. I love what he brings to the table. But
He's a monster.
Monster. You can make the case for all these guys in different ways. I do like JJ a lot, but I have the reservations if I'm ranking them. I do go Jack, Connor, JJ, Chase in that order, but you can't have a wrong answer here as far as fantasy and Major League Baseball, but we are going from the fantasy perspective, and I think Jack's can be a contributor in a big way for a very long time.
Yeah, and if he can be that monster along with Bobby Witt, that's going to be so fun. That's going to be so fun. So part 3 here, we went with the same question, but in the post-hype prospect category. And this was actually hard to find 4 guys because most post-hype guys have lost their prospect status. I was trying to get a post-hype list of guys that are still technically prospects. So the list is, and again, this is for fantasy baseball purposes, who would you most want long-term? Jordan Lawler of the Diamondbacks, Kobe Mayo in the Orioles system, Kumar Rocker of the Rangers, who struggled right now for Texas at the big league level. Kobe Mayo, same thing, struggled when he was up with the Orioles. Caden Dana of the Angels. This one just didn't get as much love or wasn't seen as much for whatever reason. I don't know why, not a ton of votes. So again, still 13 hours to participate. Go ahead and do it if you haven't. But as of now, Kobe Mayo leads the way, 44%. Jordan Lawler, 33%. Kumar Rocker, 22%. And Caden Dana gets no love, 0% here. Your thoughts on those 4?
It was tight, man. Jordan Lawler and Kobe Mayo. I love both those players immensely. Jordan Lawler took the cake for me. I just like the profile of the player a little bit better, but Kobe Mayo, dude, is right there. I could see both these guys really shedding the skin of the post hype sooner than later. All it takes is a few weeks of just being the player we know they can be. But I went Jordan Lawler, and the rest of the poll agreed. I know it was a short batch of people that voted, but I think the rest of people voted for Jordan as well, right?
Kobe Mayo has 44%, but then
Okay.
Lawler's a little bit not far behind him. For me, I've been a big fan of Kobe Mayo for a long time. You know that. I traded him away in fantasy last year in a big trade, but love his profile, the potential power, but he really struggled at the major league level. He's been doing a lot better in AAA the last week or so. Some good numbers there, and that's exciting to see. But I don't love the situation in Baltimore, as we've talked about. The kind of messing around with these prospects, the yo-yoing, the up and the down, and even when you call you up, but then you don't even play. you play once every 3-4 days, things like that. So that scares me, similar to what we talked about, some people bringing up for Connor Griffin in Pittsburgh, just not trusting the development. It's not so much the development, it's the playing time situation. Jordan Lawler, similar, just blocked in Arizona, which is weird because 2 years ago we watched him play in the World Series. But I like him the most on that list as far as a guy who I think at some point, whether it's for the Diamondbacks or someone else, is going to be very successful at the major league level.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think it was a good conversation to have. Again, if you guys haven't contributed to those polls or have seen any of our polls, go to the X Machine at Tablesetters Pod and join the conversation and put your thoughts out there and contribute to just the baseball banter on Twitter. I think that's the best part about these social media platforms is having a community grow together. We've met a lot of nice people on these social media platforms that we've connected with. A lot of our guests have come through Twitter, some on Instagram as well. So a good way to contribute and have a conversation with the podcast is through the X Machine at Tablesetters Pod. So hop on there. Devin's running the machine over there. I'm usually posting on Instagram, but Devin has access as well. So if you have something you want to ask us or tell us or give us feedback on, hop in our DMs and have a conversation or put it on public. Just add us on Twitter. We'll engage with you guys.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We'll always respond to whether it's a comment or a message. We'll get back to you pretty quickly.
So we're going to move into our newest segment here. I'm going to play a little bit of music in between. I don't even know what some of these StreamYard musics are in here just to set the mood over here with Red Hot and Ice Cold.
Oh, I like this. I feel like I'm supposed to rap though. I'm supposed to like a beat.
All right. So in this segment, we're each picking a player or a team for each category to really just talk about who's been hot and who's cold. It's as simple as possible. I mean, we had a conversation last week about this. Red hot, ice cold. Devin, on your mind right now? I mean, I'll let you start with red hot. Who's on your mind that's been scorching through Major League Baseball?
All right. So the approach I've tried to take as far as the hitters is like in the last week or so leading up to this episode, and you may look at it differently, which is completely fine. Those are the kind of segments we like, a little bit open for interpretation. But I've tried to look at the last week or so. And Michael Busch, man, what a week for him, especially some of the games going against his old squad, the Dodgers, were a club that really just didn't have room for him. And he ran out of time, basically, like, all right, this guy's got to be at the major league level. And you know what? Credit to the Dodgers for letting him go to a club where he would play. And he's on the Cubs now, been there his second year in the Cubs. He, this last week or so, hit 450, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, 314 WRC plus, which was the best number of all players for that time period. And a lot of it was against his old team, the Dodgers. So shout out to Michael Busch. That's on the hitting side. I'll give you my pitcher. And this is actually a guy on the Dodgers. His last 2 starts, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, really starting to look like the dude who everybody wanted to give $300+ million to, even though he had never thrown a pitch at the major league level. His last 2 starts, 12 innings pitched, 0 ERA, and a 10.5 K per 9. He's looked filthy lately.
So on my end, I'm going to go with Randy Arozarena. His impact of the early season for the Mariners has been profound. It looks more like the player we saw birthed in legend during that World Series run with the Rays. He sparked a late comeback with a grand slam and a walk-off walk against the Rangers that led to a series sweep. We're seeing the power. We're seeing the plate discipline and even some base running stuff for Seattle's offense that so badly needs a spark plug. So I love what Randy's bringing to the table. One of those guys in baseball that, the trade that, the fact that he goes over to Seattle has kind of muted him a little bit. Tampa was a good spot for him. I'd imagine him playing at Steinbrenner Field would have been electric, especially a minor league ballpark. But at the same time, he's contributing to Seattle and kind of being the player in the first couple of weeks that we're seeing in this season. But you mentioned a pitcher, but I had to go with another hitter combination here. And I'm going with Ben Rice and Paul Goldschmidt. I think the Yankees' unconventional leadoff duo right now has exceeded expectations. People were wondering, first off, what are we going to do with this leadoff spot? This roster doesn't seem constructed to have a guy that can get on base at this level. Well, Ben Rice is emerging as kind of a little bit of a star here. 310, 431, 690 line right now. Goldschmidt right now, he's excelling against lefties, which he is. We talked about this at the beginning of the season when we talked about the AL East preview and when Goldschmidt's first signed with the Yankees. This is a stopgap to where they're going in the future. Maybe Ben Rice will be that full-time first baseman if he becomes the star. But I think there's some motivation on Goldschmidt's end because with St. Louis and obviously his time in Arizona is well stated. This is pivotal for a Hall of Fame run. And I think if he has a good
True.
year right now at the Yankees. I think there is a conversation that Goldschmidt, maybe he's already a Hall of Famer in some circles, but with some momentum behind him of playing well in New York, the combined efforts of these two players right now, they've been pivotal for the Yankees. I know that, again, we talked about before some of their struggles, but I think they've, at the very least, shored up a spot on the lineup that we didn't know that it was going to be a question. They were going to kind of slide people in between, and between Rice and Goldschmidt, you kind of expect these guys to get on base pretty much on a nightly basis.
Yeah, I was talking to my father-in-law actually earlier about the Yankees and just saying, like, I can't figure them out yet. I feel like they might be a little bit home run or nothing, kind of. And of course, we see them hit a bunch of home runs against Seth Lugo tonight, where that would be my fear as a Yankee fan. Like, if they're not hitting home runs, can they create runs otherwise? But a guy like Goldschmidt, and I mean, everyone that line, if you can just get on base and have guys on base and make trouble, like, everyone's capable of breaking the game open in a way in that lineup. So I'm still, as we said, the AL East is kind of confusing, but an X factor. I mean, a lot of X factors in the Yankees, but definitely an X factor. As far as the colds, to go to the negative side here, I'll give you a couple hitters real quick and then one pitcher. So Riley Greene is 1 for his last 23, and that's not counting tonight. I'm not sure if the Tigers play tonight or not. I know a lot of teams are off tonight, but 1 for his last 23. And what really stands out, 52% K percentage in that time, 0 RBIs. So he's a guy, man. And he's been this, I feel like he's been this streaky dude at times, where that is what I feel like has held him back from the like MVP kind of conversation that some people feel like he's ready for. The consistency, because there are weeks he tears it up and looks like one of the best players in the league, and then he kind of disappears for a little while. So not great to see him with that. Hopefully he snaps out of it soon. Jackson Holiday, another one, 0 for his last 17. Negative 100 WRC plus. That, and 0 walks. Didn't even get on base in another direction. So a young player, I think you're going to see those negative streaks sometimes. You just hope he gets hot to counteract it. And on the pitching side, man, this guy's disappointing. Chris Sale, the reigning Cy Young Award winner, has been so mediocre, if not worse so far, that you wonder if last year was a little bit of a flash in the pan, one little thing left, and that it's gone. I don't know. I'm hoping not as a fantasy owner. But his last 2 starts, 4 2/3, 5 runs, 9 hits, 0 walks, 5 Ks. Followed that up with 4 1/3, 3 runs, 6 hits, 3 walks, 7 Ks. So like a little better as far as the runs and the strikeouts, worse for the walks, and is just not given any length to the Braves at all. He has not gone more than 5 innings pitched in any of his 4 starts. So a little bit concerned for Chris Sale. This has been season long now.
So on the pitch, I'm going to start with pitching side first. And again, very close to the Yankees because I'm watching them on a nightly basis, but their rotation through the first portion of this season right now, posting ERAs outside of Max Fried. Again, we mentioned him before. He's in the sub 2 ERA. He's 1.56. So take him out. Carlos Rodon, 5.19. Marcus Stroman, 11.57. Carlos Carrasco had 7.71 before tonight. Now he's at 5.54. And Will Warren, 6. So looking at this rotation, this is not sustainable to play in an offensive heavy division. There's a lot to be concerned about with the injuries. Luis Heel, Garrett Cole, and the guys that have been reinforcing, batting down the hatches. Like, you're not going to hit home runs and offensive surges at this clip. This pitching is going to come home to roost at some point, and you have to get it solved. And the thing is, Max Fried can't carry all of it on his shoulders. They have to figure out a way to solve this right now. And I know everyone's clowning Marcus Stroman. It's hard not to, especially with the comments he made. Like, he's a starter. Everyone keeps posting the meme of it. You know, someone even posted the action figure of him in a McDonald's uniform as well. This is just put the fries in the bag and whatever. He didn't look good on that night. Obviously, the weather was shit, not making excuses for him. He wasn't throwing strikes. He got blown up in the first inning. That stuff happens. But as a fan base, we have to rally around a guy like Marcus we're going to need him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's right. That's the guys we have lined up every fifth day. We need someone to hop in there. And the options right now are not coming there unless they go out and like trade for one of those players, you know, Sandy, or they come out there and maybe they try to make a deal with the Twins, but reinforcements are not coming. These are the dudes we have in house. And my biggest hope as a Yankee fan is that, first of all, Fried continues to do what he's doing, and Will Warren turns into this year's Luis Heel. It hasn't happened yet. He's pitched well in spurts, as I mentioned, the 6 ERA. got blown up in one way, but for Will Warren, he is the X factor for the Yankees rotation this year. And I really believe that because without Garrett Cole coming back this year, with Luis Gil out for an extended period of time, maybe he's done for the season too when it's all said and done. These are the guys you have. And Will Warren, I think, is going to be the biggest X factor because you can't rely on Carlos Carrasco and Marcus Stroman to carry the weight. So it's going to get ugly quickly in the Bronx pitching wise. They're going to have to slug people to death. And we don't really see people win World Series on slugging people to death.
Yeah, no, you're going to need at least some level of pitching. I saw those stats too, like worst starting rotation, ERA in the league. And yeah, that's scary because I feel like they're one more injury away from just like the ship is sinking at this point. I just wanted to give one more stat that I didn't get to sneak in there. Hunter Greene, we've given him a lot of love and he deserves it tonight. Since last July 1st, so going back to last season and then including, the beginning of this season, his ERA is 1. So we talk about sub-2 ERA crew and who could last. I mean, when you think about that, Hunter Greene, I guess, really should be one of the top answers there. He's really just locked in.
So you mentioned that the Tigers are playing school pitch today, and they wound up getting a 9-1 win. So the Tigers did wind up winning. The other cold player I want to mention is Jarred Kelenic, and the struggles of the plate have been evident. We've talked about ebbs and flows. He was giving every opportunity to play in this Atlanta lineup. Right now has a line of 162, 270, 270. Underperformance, no doubt about it. This has kind of been the story of who he is. He's beyond post hype at this point. He's only 25 years old, so it's like it feels like he's been in the league for a very long time. But the biggest point of conversation is that you're even having people discuss bringing Alex Verdugo in as a potential replacement in the outfield. That just shows that, at some point, I mean, Jarred Kelenic is given every opportunity, and he sat today against a lefty. And I imagine he's not going to get any more opportunities if he's batting 162. You can't just point it at Kelenic. As we mentioned, the whole offensive lineup is struggling themselves, but eventually someone has to go, and they're not going to move away from the other players that are struggling. Jarred Kelenic might be the first one to be like, you know what, see you later. We're going to move on to Alex Verdugo.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, listen, Kelenic has been given every chance in the world, whether it be in Seattle, a lot of up and downs there, tear it up in AAA and come up to the majors, just couldn't do it. And everyone thought traded to the Braves, like, oh, the Braves, everything they touch turns to gold. So like they're going to get the best out of them. Just hasn't happened, man. There's some kind of disconnect at the big league level. And there's a lot of statistics to point to now. Like, it's not just flash in the pan. It's not just, small sample size. Like, there's a lot to point at and say, listen, we're not sure if this kid really is a legitimate full-time big leaguer at this point.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that segment. The red hot thing and the ice cold thing, I feel like, is around to stay for a little bit. And I think it is a good conversation to have because it keeps our finger on the pulse of some of these players that are having some of the struggles and they're hot. We want to put a little framework on it to show you guys and keep it in a time capsule here on this episode. But we're going to play a little music here, head to come around third, and wrap up this episode here on a Monday night. All right, Devin. So as we come around third here, saying goodbye to a Monday night, another week of baseball in the books, usually use this as an opportunity to say what we're looking forward to. But on your end, I mean, use it as a platform to talk about anything that's on your mind baseball-wise.
Listen, man, I mean, people that have listened to this show, especially the last month or so, know that I clown the Cardinals a little bit. And it just so happens my team, the Mets, after they leave Minnesota, they go back home. And those pesky St. Louis Cardinals come to town. So, I mean, that's going to really determine my mood over the weekend and going into whenever we record our next episode. I feel like either I'm going to get some bragging rights or I'm going to have to rein it in a little bit.
So for me on my end, the Yankees are returning back to George M. Steinbrenner Field later this week against the Rays. So they're going home to go on the road type of stuff. So it should be interesting to watch. And again, pivotal matchup against the Rays, division stuff here, and continue into the weekend. So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch as we kind of take shape of what this AL East will be. I believe it's a 4-game set, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday against the Rays. So it should be very interesting to watch what's going down in Tampa Bay. As we continue, as the baseball season continues to drive on, we're getting a clearer picture of who these teams are. I think the most fascinating thing, as we discussed on this episode, has been the National League West and what's going on over there. Can the Giants keep it up? Can the Padres keep it up? We know baseball is a marathon, so imagine one of these teams is going to drop off and have a slow start. But if you can build on this and have the momentum and the safety net that is a 10-0 start at home, that compounds on itself. And a lot of people want to crown the Dodgers in the offseason. Hell, maybe the Dodgers want to crown themselves in the offseason, but that's not how baseball works. Baseball is one of those things that magic gets created, and every once in a while you create lightning in a bottle. You can't win it in a boardroom. You can't win it in a winter meeting. You have to play it on the field, and we're proving it this year right now with the San Diego Padres. And I think they're a good encapsulation of what baseball is and what it should be, and continue to watch momentum be built over there in San Diego.
Yeah, the Padres and the Giants are fascinating, and the NL West is fun right now. As we speak, I just watched Shohei Ohtani hit his 5th home run of the season to dead center. Once again, the bases were empty, but I can't clown hitters 7 through 9 because it was to lead off the inning. So Shohei Ohtani, 5 home runs on the season now. Dodgers up 3-0 against the Rockies, so they're looking to change the story a little bit here, and like you said earlier, kind of get big against the Rockies.
So if you guys want to support the show, subscribe to us on YouTube. Also support us by going to Dugout Mugs and use code TS10 at checkout to save 10% on your order. You can also leave a 5-star review on where you listen to us on Spotify or Apple, wherever you find us. Tell your friends about us. Join the conversation. Shout out to everyone that's left a review. Like we said, 40 5-star reviews. It's nothing to blink at. We're number 13 and change in Singapore. People listen to us in Japan. You can follow us at Tablesetters Pod on both Twitter and on Instagram. A lot of good stuff as we approach these months that are always filled with baseball. It becomes the soundtrack of spring and summer, and I'm always glad to have it on background, forefront, etc. Baseball is living, breathing, and thriving. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, man. Now we just need the weather to match it. We got baseball here for a while. Let's get the weather going and turn it around a little bit. And let's go Mets. Let's go.
So again, you guys, if you're looking forward to this weekend, we got WrestleMania on the horizon. If you're looking for some of that content, follow me at Acefield Retro. You guys can check out Wrestling Tonight for the full preview at Turnbuckle Tavern. So a little cheap plug there for the pro wrestling stuff. And Devin, before we go, we're saying goodbye here. Any early predictions for WrestleMania as we speak? Obviously, the big match everyone's talking about is Cody Rhodes and John Cena, but feel free to go wherever you want to go. I'm play some nice music on our way out.
Oh man, I think Cena wins. He's our fan, so I gotta cheer for Cena. He follows us now. I think Cena wins. Wow, there's a lot that I don't know. I think for the IC match, which could steal the show, the Fatal 4-Way, I think Dom gets the IC title there. I think a lot of people are predicting that he pins Finn, and I think there's something to that. But I think that's going to be a fun match. Maybe that steals the show a little bit. And the other main event, the Punk Rollins Roman thing, everyone's predicting that Rollins joins Heyman and Heyman turns on the other two. I just think too many people are predicting it for that to happen. So I'm going to say Punk gets his WrestleMania win, but there's going to have to be something weird that happens in that match. But there's a lot more on the card, but I'll end it at that. Anything, you're the wrestling podcast guy. Give me something interesting that you've been talking about here. What do you think's going on?
Well, it's very interesting that you said that about Dom, because I'm the only one around the circle of my conversations picking that he would win, and I said the exact same thing. I think a feud with Finn and Dom is on the horizon for that IC title. You got to get the IC title off of Braun, and I think he's the person that will take it off of Jey Uso, because I think Jey Uso is going to beat Gunther, so all those things coming into place. Braun has outgrown the IC title. I also think Jacob Fatu is going to win that US title from LA Knight. A lot of crowning moments definitely on this end, but I do think Cody Rhodes is retaining against John Cena, and my reason being is that although John Cena follows on this account here at Tablesetters Pod, I think that they want John Cena to break the record that Ric Flair holds as a babyface. They have the rest of the year to do so. He has a lot of months to right the wrong, but I think Cody Rhodes retains at WrestleMania. But the real question will be, and my bold prediction is, for those familiar with WrestleMania 18, Rock and Hogan, the electric atmosphere that took place at the Toronto Sky Dome with The Rock getting boos, I think we might see a similar atmosphere with John Cena getting some cheers and some I wouldn't say full-blown boos for Cody Rhodes, but I think a mixed reaction for the first time in a WWE ring in a very long time. That Vegas crowd is going to be very partial to wanting to see history at WrestleMania. So I'm thinking that Cody Rhodes will be playing the role of The Rock, while the role of Hogan we played as John Cena, and they want John Cena to turn back the clock, potentially win, but will just come up short to Cody Rhodes.
So maybe like kind of a double turn. I mean, they are inducting the Bret Hart Stone Cold match from WrestleMania 13 as the first match to go in the Hall of Fame. And that's in my opinion, the most famous double turn ever. Hogan Rock, you could say as well, but the Bret Hart Stone Cold thing is just a masterpiece of like turning both people in the same match. It's unbelievable. And having Punk in kind of induct them, I think is going to be a cool speech too, because obviously he has history with both guys, big fan of both guys. So that'll be fun. But I like that prediction. I didn't think of the Cody Cena possibly a little bit of a double turn there. And that could be a way to get Cena. Everyone's talking about like, how do you get him back to being a face before he's done? Like he cannot retire as a heel. So I like that possibility.
Well, again, if you guys are going to follow us, make sure you do it on social media. Enjoy the rest of your weeks here. We'll be back soon. We have some guests lined up, potentially conversations with other team-centric podcasts. Stay tuned to social media for all those things. We'll be back next week talking all things baseball. Until that time, we will talk to you after a while.